In this video, we're going to talk about ways you can differentiate instruction prior to your students working in the guided lesson. We're going to take a look at the teacher dashboard and look at how we can differentiate and provide flexible grouping using the reporting features. We're going to look at the assignment features and how we can differentiate the level of assignment that students are given prior to them working independently. We're going to talk about the openers. What are some strategies you can use while you're delivering the opener and to differentiate for the different levels of students in your classroom? And we're going to take a look at the open-ended tools and how you can customize your own openers and closers and independent activities to meet individual student needs. Let's begin by looking at ways I can differentiate instruction prior to beginning teaching using the class dashboard. One good strategy is to begin by looking at class data. In the progress data, I can easily scan down the color coding squares and see which students might need some pre-teaching prior to a lesson, or who might need to have questions adjusted or extra attention during the lesson because they had difficulty. For example, these 3 students here required practice with support on the lesson comparing with common numerators. Perhaps I wanted to give them some extra support prior to the next lesson. Another thing I can do is I can take groups of students or my entire class, and when I add an assignment, I can decide up front that I don't want them to do the standard assignment, but I want them to work on a remedial or a pre-skill. Simply select the lesson like I typically do in an assignment. I click the Assign Lesson button, but you'll notice now that I can decide that I want to put them directly into a remedial or a pre-skill, avoiding the opportunity of failure should I think that they have some pre-skills that might be missing. When planning out the lesson, now that I've got my grouping set and I've looked at my data, I now want to take a look at the lesson itself and start looking at possible misconceptions that could cause confusion for my students. So we're going to look at one in the curriculum library. Let's take a look at this lesson here. The first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at the lesson plan. I want to notice that each plan has vocabulary listed. Do I need to bring student attention to any particular vocabulary word or create an anchor chart? Is there any prior knowledge that I know that they're still having difficulty with? Look at each opening screen. Is there any process vocabulary like click, drag, shade that might be difficult for some of my students with English language learning deficits? Do I want to look at how I can change sample questions during the opener or during the formative assessment? Once I've done that, I then am going to go back and look at the actual lesson opener itself to make sure I haven't missed anything and perhaps even go through the guided lesson. This opener is a Think, Pair, Share. As I scan through, I'm looking again for vocabulary or things that might be difficult for my students. I notice here that it says, what can we observe about the number line model on the screen? Considering the students in my classroom, I might want to change that prompt to say, what do we notice about? Who would like to describe the model? Who can tell us about this model? I might actually want students to use manipulatives to work with number line models. So I need to think of this ahead of time and plan for the differences in the student learning in my classroom. Another way teachers can differentiate instruction is through the use of the open-ended tools in the tool library. Clicking on the tool tab at the top shows all the tools that are available, multiplication division tools or fraction tools. I'm going to select the multiplication tool. I can customize an opener, I can customize some examples to work in small groups, or I can customize a closer by opening the tool. All of the tools are very simple to use and only take a minute to set up a problem. I could simply type in or copy and paste a saved problem into the tool. In this example, I'm presenting students with a word problem for them to solve. I can put in the information and then I can create the models, solve the problem below, either as a word problem or numbers. Each tool has a video that helps you understand all of the features of the tool, but it does allow you to customize and differentiate your instruction. A final thing that we can do prior to the start of our guided lesson with students, I can create a customized subgroup for my class. So I can select my class. I happen to have more because I'm in as an administrator, but you would select your class and you could make another subgroup. You could do Create new class. Even though it's a new class, what you're doing is you're creating a subgroup in which you can put students for remediation. Once I create a class and say OK, I can simply add to the class through the class enrollment button. So as you've seen in this video, there's a lot of things that you can do prior to students working independently in the guided lesson in which you can plan for differentiation.